Welcome, I'm Tex, and this is my K&C card review. Barkskin, a decent card that will allow you to trade favorably on the board. A slightly worse than Power Word Shield level card, because it doesn't cycle and only gives you armor instead. Oaken Summons, an average card that will typically pull you between a 2 and a 4 drop from your deck. So the 6 armor plus the average 3 drop pull makes this a decent card. Ironwood Golem, its taunt and high stats for its mana cost make it a solid card. Even though it most of the time cannot attack, it will be a good defensive card. Lesser Jasper Spellstone, 2 damage onto a minion for 1 mana. It's equivalent to Holy Smite, but that cannot go face, so it's a decent card there, and its 2 upgraded forms, which after gaining 3 armor over multiple turns or in a single turn, will give you 4 damage or 6 damage, which shouldn't be that difficult to achieve in Druid, is a solid card. A very good card that you would likely want to pick as decent removal for high tempo plays. Greedy Spite, a decent curve card that will allow you to tempo out better than your opponent in the future turns. It is a terrible late game card, but should be okay as a 3 drop due to the extra mana crystal you gain for its death rattle. Grizzled Guardian, a decently statted minion when you include the 2 minions it pulls from your deck due to its death rattle, and its death rattle should go off due to it retaining taunt, and it being a beast is just a slight bonus. Astral Tiger, 4 mana 3/5, where its death rattle shuffles a copy of it back into your deck, which essentially does very little in Arena. So it's slightly worse than Ascension, because it doesn't even have taunt. Branching Paths. This card is a decent card. It's actually slightly above average due to its flexibility in nature and allowing the user to choose what is best for them at the time. Its stats will be slightly below what its mana cost is, for giving you maybe a 3 to 3.5 mana cost card, but costing 4. But this is still good due to its flexibility for the user in whatever circumstance they need. Twig of the World Tree is a 4 mana 1/5 weapon with a death rattle, gain 10 mana crystals. This is a very, very powerful effect, but in Arena it will not go off and is a very, very slow card, thus making it not very good. Fungal Lord is a 5 mana 2/4 elemental, one of the few elementals in Druid, and it has a very powerful effect, but is very slow, so it is not a fantastic card. It is slightly below average. Candle Shot, 1 mana 1/3 weapon, immune while attacking, makes it a very good card, similar to Light's Justice. The 1 less durability replaced by immune, which makes it better in the late game. Cave Hydra, 3 mana 2/4 beast with a powerful ability. This ability is very good when you already have control of the board, which is what you want to do as Hunter, so this is a decently good card. Flanking Strike, deal 3 damage, summon a 3/3 wolf, which is a beast. It's a better Fire Plume Phoenix, which makes it a very, very powerful card, and one that you will want to pick quite often. Wandering Monster, a 2 mana secret that summons a random 3 drop when your opponent hits your face. It is similar to Bear Trap, but may provide better stat distribution or worse depending on the card pulled, and doesn't guarantee taunt. Lesser Emerald Spellstone. Summon 2/3/3 wolves for 5 mana, which is already decently stat distributed for 5 mana. The wolves are beasts, which is a bonus, and if you happen to upgrade it by playing a secret, you can get a 3rd wolf, or if you upgrade it by having this in your hand while you play another secret, you get a 4th wolf. If you get 3 or 4 wolves, it's insanely good, but most likely you'll only get 2 or 3 wolves. So this card is a slightly above average card, but not insane. Seeping Oozling. 6 mana 5/4 with a death rattle effect of something in your deck. The randomness and the stat distribution make this a slightly below average card due to the death rattle not always being great. To my side, 6 mana Animal Companion. So, terrible card. Crushing Walls destroys the leftmost and rightmost minions. 7 mana, so it's kind of expensive, but it has a very powerful effect that can be positioned around, but it makes it awkward for your opponents to position around this and Explosive Shot, so a strong card. 7 mana, deal 8 damage over 2 turns. This is not a good weapon. Should probably pick other things besides this. Winter Wisp, 8 mana 6/6, recruit a beast, and for both Battlecry and Death Rattle. It's a decent card, better in the more mid-rangey style of Hunter, and worse in the aggressive Hunter. Shifting Scroll transforms into a random mage spell each turn, and it's in your hand. It's a decent card that will be better as the game goes on and you have more times to transform it. It's similar to Shifter Xeris. This card is a 1 mana 1/2 elemental, so it's very flexible to play. Its ability isn't strong, so it's slightly below average. Not a fantastic card. Raven Familiar is a 2 mana 2/2, possibly gain a spell. It reintroduces the Joust mechanic. It's a very decent card that you will likely want to pick. Lesser Ruby Spellstone, add 1 random mage spell to your hand for 2 mana, which isn't great, it's pretty bad. But if you play 2 elementals to upgrade, you can obtain either 2, or if you play another 2 elementals, you can get 3 random mage spells for 2 mana, which will be very, very powerful. So you have to be holding this card while you play the elementals to upgrade. If you have to use it on the first ability, where you only get 1 random mage spell, it's not good, but I think it should be pretty easy to play at least 2 elementals to get the second ability, so it should be a decently powerful card. But it's something that you have to trigger for it to be good. Explosive Ruins is a 3 mana secret that deals 6 damage to the enemy minion and any excess damage to the hero. So it's a decently powerful card, since it can trade with most 3-drops as long as they aren't Divine Shields or they don't summon another minion. So it's pretty powerful and can possibly even trade with 4-drops. So it's a decent card. This is a 4 mana 4/5, which is already good in stats. It's an elemental, which is nice, and has an insanely powerful effect. So it is a card that you'll be likely picking a lot when you get offered it. Deck of Wonders is a decent card due to most mage spells being pretty good and only affecting your opponent negatively. So most of the cards you'll get from it are decent. Unfortunately, it's a lot of RNG and can swing the board states pretty heavily into one side or the other. So it was one I will try to avoid, but may not be able to. Dragon's Fury, 5 mana, deal a random amount of damage to the board, the entire board. This will be better in certain decks that have high costing spells, but it should be a powerful card in most decks. This legendary weapon has an extremely powerful effect of drawing 3 cards at the end of your turn, but because of this effect and high mana cost being very slow, this card should not be considered premium, but is a decent card. 9 mana 3/3. It's insanely bad if you cannot proc this. If you can proc it once, it's slightly below average, but I believe that you should be able to proc it at least once or twice, so I'm giving it a slightly above average score. If you can proc it more than twice, it's insane. 2 mana 1/1 is pretty poor in stats, but it allows you to add flexibility to your future turns by having those Silverhand recruits, and there are Silverhand recruit synergies in this meta which you're going to want to take or be forced to take, so it's a decent card. Potion of Heroism. Give a minion Divine Shield, which is similar to Hand of Protection. Costs 1 more mana to cycle, which is great, so it's not a downside. There's no downside in the late game, and it allows you to trade for free. Great card. Benevolent Djinn, 3 mana 2/4 elemental. Its ability is very strong, even though its stats are not, so it is a pretty good card, especially at stopping aggressive decks. Summon a 2/2 for 2 with Taunt. Not a great card on its own, but when you upgrade by restoring 3 health while this is in your hand, you can get a 4/4 Taunt, or if you upgrade it again, you can get a 6/6 Taunt, which is insanely good for 2 mana. This card should be able to be procced pretty easily, at least once, so this is a very good card, and one that you will likely want to pick. Unidentified Maul, 3 mana 2/2 weapon, which isn't fantastic, but it gains a bonus effect when it enters your hand and will remain a permanent effect for that game. It has 4 effects that it can choose from. The Divine Shield effect is insanely powerful and one that you will hope to get. The Silverhand effect is decent, and the attack effect can be decent, as well as the taunt effect is usually not great, but could be good in certain circumstances. But this is still a weapon, so it is a very good card. Crystal Lion, 6 mana 5/5 Divine Shield, similar to Sunwalker, but does not have taunt, but it has a powerful effect that allows it to be played for cheaper depending on the number of Silverhand recruits you control. So a very good card. Call to Arms, 4 mana, summon 3 minions that cost 2 or less from your deck. So it thins your deck of the bad cards and is like a slightly stronger doppelgangster. You can low roll, but it is still a very good card. Level Up. It is too situational to be insanely good. It has some synergy with some of the new cards that were introduced, but it's still not a great card. It's just too situational. This card has insane value in both its death rattle and in the weapon itself. It's a very good card. And only its weakness is that you have to take a lot of face damage. So just be mindful of that. This card is not great in Arena. It's very deck dependent and may need a couple buffs before it is worth its mana cost. But if you have like a Steed in your deck, can be somewhat decent. This card is like Mind Vision or a worse hallucination, since you're not discovering the spell, it's just randomly added. So not a fantastic card, but can sometimes be good. So you're paying 3 mana for a 2/2. and you don't get the coin until you die with it. Pretty bad card. Yeah. Unidentified elixir. So you will not know the effect until it enters your hand, but all the effects are decent, and the stat bonus is really nice in Priest, especially where you want to heal. So this is a very good card. The Divine Shield ability is very good. The copy is basically even stats for a 3 mana card. The Lifesteal can be good in late game situations where you need to heal back up. And the Death Rattle is good value, so this is a great card. 3 mana 2/1/1s is not good stats, but the Death Rattles could be pretty decent. So it has some high rolls, but for the most part it should not be a good card. Duskbreaker, insanely powerful effect, and gets you a 3/3 body. It's ridiculously good. It's a dragon, and the only downside is it needs to be procced by a dragon, so it's conditional, but insanely strong. Lesser Diamond Spellstone. Resurrect 2 friendly minions. You need to cast 4 spells to upgrade, which is a lot in Arena, so it's not great. If you happen to cast 4 spells, you can upgrade it, and if you get 3 or 4 friendly minions to resurrect, it can be decent to very good, but you still have to high roll in Arena. Most likely you'll just resurrect some 2-drops or 3-drops, and then it's not insanely good. It's pretty bad. You probably want to stay away from it unless your deck is suited towards it. It's a much better card in Constructed. This card is very, very good if you're holding a dragon. The ability to swap a minion's attack with this one is insanely strong. It has slightly below average stats if you don't, but it's still fine to play. So this is a very good card. Psychic Scream, insanely powerful board clear. Doesn't even activate Death Rattles, and if you play while there's a bunch of small minions on the board, gives your opponents a bunch of bad draws. Very good in Arena. Extremely powerful. Dragon Soul. After 3 spells, summon a 5/5 dragon. Extremely powerful effect. Only 3 mana. But the card is way too conditional, and you definitely won't be able to cast 3 spells on a single turn in Arena. So not a good card. Just not consistent. 7 mana 6/6 dragon. Not great. And its ability is actually a downside because your opponent gets the 2 turns first. So it is not a good card in Arena. You will want to stay away from this as much as possible. Strong card that gets you a free weapon, hopefully a Shadow Blade or a Perdition's Blade for a follow-up turn. So helps your curve and is really good against non-ping classes, but still pretty decent against ping classes because it forces the ping. Decent card. Unfortunately, it is somewhat easy to position around. Otherwise, it'd be a very strong card. Cheat Death is a decent card. It allows you to pay for the mana cost now and get a discounted card later. It's similar to Getaway Kodo with its effect, but the new discounted card allows you to tempo out later while being able to combo with that card. This 4 mana card is insanely powerful when you combo it, getting to draw 2 cards with a 3/2 body. Just don't play it as a 4-drop, and this card will be insanely strong. As long as you use it with the combo effect, it is really good. This 4 mana 3/3 with a 1/1 Death Rattle typically won't get you that much value in Arena, so its sticky body may be nice at times, but it's better just for your opponents to get a favorable trade, so it's not a great drop. Lesser Onyx Spellstone. Destroy 1 enemy minion. It's random. To upgrade, you need to play 3 Death Rattle cards, which is kind of hard to do, but if you happen to do that, you can get two minions, or if you do it again, you get 3, which would be insane value. Most of the time it's just going to be used as a deadly shot, but deadly shot's insanely good. So for the extra 2 mana, it's not fantastic, but it's still pretty decent. So it's a decent card. And if you happen to play the 3 death rattles, it's insanely good. But most of the time it'll just be an overcosted deadly shot, which is okay because you'll play it against an empty board and it'll be fine card. Similar to Ice Block, Evasion is a terrible card. Don't pick it unless you have to, because the other cards are literally unplayable. 4 mana, 4/4, so a decent body with an insane upside. You shuffle 3 ambushes into your deck so that whenever you draw them, you get a free 4/4 on your side of the board, and you still draw your card for that turn. So it's insanely good. Just basically insane value in stats and tempo later in the game. Just a great card overall. A 1 mana 1/3 weapon is fine. Its death rattle is really nice unless you happen to shuffle it back in your deck without having any buffs to this. But for the most part, it's a pretty good card with a nice upside when you use envenom weapons or deadly poisons on this. Sonya Shadow Dancer. 3 mana 2/2 is pretty slow, but its upside is pretty nice if you happen to get some Battlecry minions back to your hand, or good Death Rattle minions back to your hand. So it has a pretty nice upside, but it's a pretty slow tempo play, so don't want to play it on curve if you don't have to. Crushing Hand is a fantastic card. Similar to Flame Lance, deals 8 damage to a minion, but the mana is distributed over 2 turns, which allows you to play other things with it, which makes it a fantastic card. Kobold Hermit is a 2 mana 1/1 that you get to choose the basic totem you want. So it's decent. In the early game you can just choose the 1/1 totem if you need it, or late game when you need the spell damage, it's okay too. So it's a okay card, but not insanely powerful. Healing Rain is a win more type of card where you already have to be winning on the board for it to even go off. It's not a great card from that perspective. So if you're down or if you need to come back, it just can't be played. And if you don't trade efficiently or if you're going face, it doesn't do anything. Murmuring Elemental is a 2 mana 1/1, which is pretty bad. It has a powerful effect if you can get it to go off, but it's unlikely to be that good because you have to do it in the same turn as well. So it's not a fantastic card from that perspective, and pretty slow tempo wise. 3 mana, keep a bad board is not the best card. It just doesn't do anything when you're losing and barely does much when you're winning. Lesser Sapphire Spellstone. Summon a copy of a friendly minion. So it has to be a friendly minion, which makes it bad already. And to upgrade it, you have to spend 3 mana crystals overloaded, which is kind of hard to do in Arena. It can happen every once in a while. So you can upgrade to 2 copies of a friendly minion, or 3 if you get really lucky. But for the most part, it's just going to be 1. And for 7 mana, that's really expensive. And you already have to have a board for it to be good for that perspective. So it's not a great card. It's pretty bad. Unstable Evolution, insanely good card. You can evolve something as many times in the same turn as you want. And if you happen to get charge minions, you can hit the face for extra damage. Or you can just stop evolving something once you get something good statted or good effect for the cost. 5 mana 5/5. That's basically it. If you happen to high roll it the one game out of dozens, congrats. It'll be really, really good, but mostly just a 5 mana 5/5. So a decent card. Nothing too powerful, just a decent card with a really, really high upside. Grumble World Shaker. Insanely good. 6 mana 7/7 elemental. Already good for its stats, and its ability is pretty strong. Although you are forced to return your minions to your hand, they only cost 1, so they're pretty easy to play again. And that way you can trade favorably and then replay them. Really good card. The Rune Spear. 8 mana 3/3 weapon. So it's kind of slow, but it's a weapon, and it allows you to discover a spell. Unfortunately, it has random targets, so it's not insanely good because of that. And it's kind of slow, so it's not an insanely good card. It's just decent. Dark Pack, 1 mana, restore 8 health would be good, except you have to destroy a friendly minion. So destroying a friendly minion anti-tempos you, and tempo is very important, so it's not a great card because of that. Although there are cheap minions that you can destroy to allow you to tap for more later in the game by restoring your health, it's just still not a great card because you have to anti-tempo yourself. Loot Hoarder for 1 mana. Pretty good. You do have to deal 2 damage to your hero, but that's okay. You get a huge tempo swing and you get to draw a card later to cycle, so this is a very good card. 2 mana, 2/4 Taunt is insanely good, and it's a demon. You do have to deal 2 face damage to yourself, but the tempo you get from this card will be insanely strong. Lesser Amethyst Spellstone, very good card. Deal 3 damage, heal for 3 because of lifesteal. Is already kind of okay for 4 mana, but all you have to do to upgrade it is deal damage to yourself from your own cards, and then you get 5 damage and heal for 5, or 7 damage and heal for 7. And dealing damage to your own face is really easy to do, especially with the 2 common cards that they introduced this expansion. So this card will be easy to upgrade, and deal 7 for 4 mana is insanely good. And you get to heal for 7 as well. Really, really good card. Top card. Possessed Lackey, 5 mana, 2/2, Death Rattle, recruit a demon. Really anti-tempos you, just puts you really far behind on the board, and even when you get the Death Rattle trigger, unless you really high roll, it's still not great. Hooked Reaver, 4 mana, 4/4 demon, and has a really good effect, so that when you have less than 15 health, it's a 7/7, and gets taunt. So it's a on-curve card, decent, and later in the game, it protects you and has taunt and really good stats for 4 mana. Really strong card. You're going to want to pick it a lot. Cataclysm, destroy all minions, discard your hand, only 4 mana. Insanely powerful card. Board clear for 4 mana is insanely good. You might think the downside of discarding your hand is too high, but as Warlock you want to be tempoing out, so you want to play a lot of low cost cards and then have to tap for value later after your hand's already empty. So discarding your hand is not a huge deal because your hand should be pretty close to empty anyways, and then you just tap for more value at the end and play 2 cards every turn anyways. And you also get to play a card after you tap after Cataclysm anyways if you have 10 mana. So it's really good. Voidlord, 9 mana, 3/9 demon, summon 3 1/3s taunt demons as well as a death rattle. It's pretty good statted. The 3 attack is kind of low, but the taunts on 4 separate minions is really strong. This weapon is pretty slow because you don't get the demon until the start of your next turn. So it's 5 mana, do nothing this turn, and then the minion you get can't attack unless it already has charge. So it's really slow. Only good if you're going to play really late game and you have a lot of demons in the deck. Try to avoid when possible. 6 mana, 3/6, Death Rattle, add the first seal to your hand. The seals are all bad except for the very last one, which is 5 mana, 6/6, but it's still not that great. So you have to find the time and the turns to play this where you're not losing, and then you get to play the 10 mana, 10/10, which destroys your opponent's deck. So if this is just going to be a 6 mana, 3/6. The other effects are just not going to happen. You're never going to get this to happen. It's just too slow, way too slow in Arena. It just won't happen. So it's not a good card. Dry Whisker Armorer, 2 mana, 2/2 with a decent upside as a battle cry. Not too bad. It's pretty good. Gem-studded Golem, 6 mana, 5/9. Can't attack unless you have 5 or more armor. It has Taunt, which is really crucial. For the good stats, it is a decent card since it has Taunt. Unfortunately, it won't be able to attack, but it should absorb quite a few attacks from your opponent or a big removal. Unidentified Shield, gain 5 armor and a bonus effect. You don't see the bonus effect until it gets into your hand, and then it's permanent. If you get the armor bonus effect, it's really unplayable almost. The weapon is really good, and the other two are decent. So the overall card is decent. It can't be good because of the extra armor. 15 armor option is just really bad, but it's playable. Kobold Barbarian, 3 mana, 4/4, which is insanely good. It attacks at the start of your turn, random enemy. So it's like Ogre Brute, but slightly worse because you can't control if you attack or not. So it's still a very good card though, and you'll want to have it. Gather Your Party, 6 mana, almost unplayable. Yeah, it's really bad. Don't pick it. Lesser Mithril Spellstone, 7 mana, summon 1/5/5. So that's not good, but if you equip a weapon, which should be fairly easy to do in Warrior, you get 2 5/5s, and if you equipped another weapon, it upgrades to 3 5/5s. So you have to equip the weapon while this is in your hand. That shouldn't be too difficult, so you should at least get 2 5/5s, if not 3. If you get 2, it's okay. If you get 3, it's insanely good. So I think this card is going to be fairly good in Warrior. It's just going to be a fairly good card because you can upgrade it fairly easily and consistently, even in Arena. Bladed Gauntlet. So it doesn't have any attack power unless you have armor. So it's kind of harder to get armor in Arena. It's not a great card because of that. It's only 2 mana though. And if you do happen to have ways of getting armor besides armoring up, it can be really good. But most of the time it's just going to be mediocre at best. So it's not a great card because it forces you to armor up on a turn which you may not want to. Reckless Flurry. It spends your armor, so your armor goes away, but you deal that much damage to all minions. So it's a much needed board clear that Warrior wanted, but it's kind of hard to use in Arena, so it's not that great. But you can always armor up and then do a Volcanic Potion-like effect. It just is not insanely powerful, but it is good that Warrior's got it. And if you happen to plan your turns properly, it can still be good if you have armor up abilities, which they have introduced into the Arena, or if you play the 2-drop previously talked about. 8 mana, 4/8 is pretty slow tempo. You do get a 1/1 or something for even if you have 0 armor, just like a Wisp or something like that. But if you happen to armor up, or if you have the 2-drop that makes it very good, it can be insanely powerful, especially if it lives through multiple turns. So even though the stats are underwhelming, it can be very good. So it's a decent card, slightly above average. Whoa, Cleava. 8 mana, 3/3 weapon. It's pretty slow, so it's not a good card. Unless you can get multiple hits out of it, then it can actually get some value, but it needs to get at least 2 hits usually to get value, probably 3. Bad card. No attack means it can't do anything unless it's buffed. It really doesn't do much, so try to stay away from it. 1 mana, 1/3. Dire Maul's pretty good. It's a beast, so just the stats alone are fine, and it's really flexible to play. And if you have buffs in your deck, or if you want to curve out really well, this is a decent card to draft. Better River Croc, and it's a beast as well, so it's a decent card. You should be picking it quite frequently as your curve card. Dragon Slayer, 3 mana, 4/3. So stats are already good. Insane battle cry. Deals 6 damage to a dragon. It's insane. You should be picking it a lot. It's really, really, really good. Sewer Crawler. Same stats as a Razorfin Hunter, but The beast is the 2/3 this time, so it's slightly better. But it's basically a decent card that you're just going to pick as a curve card. Toothy Chest. It's like a validated Doomsayer, but worse, and it allows your opponent to attack in, so you have to play it on an empty board for it to be good. So it's not a great card. Otherwise, it's just they get a free attack into it. Fungal Enchanter, 3 mana, 3/3, already decent stats with an insanely good effect. It allows you to trade in and then heal your minions back up. It's going to be a very good card, and one that you'll be happy to pick. Kobold Apprentice, 3 mana, 2/1 with an Arcane Missiles effect. So it's not that good. It's a little overcosted. But it's okay. It'll be a card you're going to be forced to draft at times, especially in non-pink classes. Shrieking Shroom. So it summons 2 1-drops basically, because a 1/2 is a 1-drop stats-wise. So it's slightly understated, but if it lives multiple turns, it can be okay. It's just a below average card on curve, and just in general. 3 mana, 1/1 beast that's a poisonous, and Divine Shield. Pretty good card. Be able to kill things, and the Divine Shield makes it really hard for your opponents to deal with. Really good card. You're gonna want to take this quite often. Boisterous Bard, 3 mana, 3/2, give your other minions +1 health. So it's very similar to a Shattered Sun Cleric. Unfortunately, it doesn't give the attack buff as well. But if you have multiple minions, it's better. It's a little bit harder to trade sometimes, so it's a decent minion. That's about it. Cursed Disciple, 5/1, Death Rattle, summon another 5/1. It's 4 mana, so it's like a more expensive Scarlet. The 1 health is kind of disadvantage, so I don't think it's as good as Scarlet on curve, but it's still decent, so it's a decent card. Sneaky Devil. Raid Leader with Stealth, and it's a demon tag, but that doesn't really matter too much. So 4 mana, Raid Leader. No, Stealth isn't worth an extra mana. It's not good. Hoarding Dragon, 4 mana, 5/6. Give your opponent 2 coins as a Death Rattle. It's a dragon, which is nice. It's just insanely good card. The 2 coins they don't get until after it dies, so the tempo is already used, so you get to favorably trade. So it's a really good card. You're going to want to pick it quite often. Only downside is it now can get Dragon Slayed by the Dragon Slayer. Shroom Brewer, +1 to everything on Earthen Ring Farseer, and that's really good. So yeah, you're going to want to take it. Trog Gloom Eater, 5 mana, 1/5, Taunt Poisonous. It's a pretty good card. It's very similar to Venomancer. The taunt is really nice, so it's probably slightly better, but we'll see. It's going to be good. Fungalmancer, 5 mana, 2/2, give adjacent minions +2/+2. It's not good. You can't always reliably give your adjacent minions, so at best it's usually like a 5 mana 4/4, which isn't great. And unlike Defender of Argus, it doesn't give it taunt either. It's just not great for its stats. Guild Recruiter, 5 mana 2/4, so it recruits a minion 4 or less. Mostly you get a 3-drop, so you get 2 2/4s, or 2/4 and a 2/3 or something like that. It's not great for 5 mana. You want at least a 4/4, and that's not likely. Green Jelly, 5 mana 3/3, summon a 1/2 taunt at the end of your turn. So in the games it sticks around, it is pretty good. But most games it'll be pretty easy to remove and not that great. So it's still good enough stats that it's decent. Corrosive Sludge, 5 mana 5/5, destroy your opponent's weapon. Just decent static card with a really good effect. So even though it might not proc most games, it's still a good card. Silver Vanguard, 7 mana 3/3, recruit an 8 cost minion as a Death Rattle. Death Rattle makes it really slow. It's just not a good card, even if you have 8 drops in your deck. It's just too slow. It's not a good card. don't pick it. Violet Worm, 8 mana 7/7, Death Rattle, summon 7/1/1 grubs. Really good card. It's like a better Threshodon, except it's 1 more mana, so that's kind of bad, but it's just like overall better. So it's a really good card. It doesn't have taunt though, so it's a little scary, so you have to find the turn to play it, but it's a good card. Sleepy Dragon, 9 mana 4/12 dragon with taunt. So it's a very good card to slow down your opponent and absorb a lot of shots. So it's a good stabilizer, but it's also a risky play because it's 9 mana. It's not a fantastic card, just a decent card, slightly above average. Great meme card, that's basically it. If you happen to get it, it has to go face for it to memes to even happen. It's not a great card. Doesn't do a lot, very low value. 1 mana 2/3, great in stats, but its battle cry kind of offsets its stats because you can then summon a 2/3 for your opponent, or a 3/2, or even a 2/1, just makes it a 2/1 basically. So it's not a great card. It's just there's the RNG just makes it not great. So just below average. Scorpomatic, mechs are back, but it's more like a Shadow Pain type of card. You can use it for value. You can also use it for tempo, but it's better as its ability. It's not a great card on curve. So you want to make sure you have good enough 2-drops that this doesn't count as one. Lone Champion, 3 mana 2/4, so its stats are not fantastic, but its battle cry is insanely good, and in the early game really easy to proc. Getting Divine Shield and Taunt, if you have no other minions, is really powerful and will slow down your opponent quite a bit, and you can always just play it first later in the game after trading. So it's a very good card. Ebon Dragonsmith, 4 mana 3/4 dragon, so the stats are kind of underwhelming. It allows your opponent to trade favorably, which is much worse. Even with the battle cry of reducing a random weapon in your hand, it's still not great, and if you don't have that proc, it's really bad, so just try to avoid it when possible. Kobold Monk, 4 mana 3/6, can't be targeted by spells or hero powers, insanely strong, hard to remove your opponent, can trade pretty well, good stat distribution, a card you're going to want to pick quite a bit. Furbolg Mossbinder, 5 mana 1/1, transform a friendly minion into a 6/6. It's not a great card. It's playable, but at best it gets you 6/6 worth of stats, and most of the time it doesn't do that, and you're just transforming something. Sometimes it'll force you not to play it because you have a big minion on the board and that's the only thing you have, or if you don't have anything on the board, it's just a 5 mana 1/1. It's not a good card, but it's pickable. Hungry Etten, 6 mana 4/10 taunt. Summon a 2-drop for your opponent as a battle cry. It's pretty good card. The 4/10 taunt is really good. If your opponent gets a normal 2-drop, it'll just trade in and it's like a 4/7 taunt for 6. That's not bad. Otherwise, if they get poisonous and you get really unlucky, you'll have to trade in. So it's better to play these types of cards when you have removal already in hand. But it's a decent card anyways, most of the time. 3 mana 1/3, return a destroyed weapon. It's really bad. It's just like really slow, and a lot of classes don't have weapons, and even classes that do, it's not usually worth paying 3 mana for a 1/3. Void Ripper, 3 mana 3/3 demon. Swap the attack and health of other minions. So this card requires some planning by you to set it up, but typically it's just a very good card you use in situations that you need it. It can let you trade however you want. 4 mana 3/3 beast. It's not worth the mana cost. It's the understated is going to hurt you more than the effect. The effect isn't that strong. Yeah, it's just gonna hurt. It's not a good card, but you'll take it every once in a while when the other cards are trash. Arcane Tyrant, 5 mana 4/4 elemental. Costs 0 if you cast spells that cost 5 or more this turn. There are quite a few spells that are 5 or more, and most decks have them that you're gonna pick them. So it's a decent card for that because it's gonna be free quite often, and you get to play it for a high tempo. And when you don't, it's not that that low in stats that it's unpickable. So it's a pretty good card most of the time. Carnivorous Cube. 5 mana 4/6, so it has decent stats, pretty good stats. Battlecry, destroy a friendly minion, so it anti-tempos yourself a little bit, which isn't good. But Death Rattle, summon 2 copies of it, so you can protect yourself against AoE, get a lot of value late game. Or you can make a trade and then destroy your friendly minion to get even more value. It's a really good card, and it's just a good standalone 5. Spiteful Summoner. 6 mana 4/4, so stats are underwhelming. Battlecry, reveals spell from your deck, summon a random minion with the same cost. So you basically just need to get at least a 2 mana card for it to be a 6 mana 6/6. Most likely you get a 3-drop or better, and it's a good card. Yeah, so it's really good. You're gonna want it most times. Corridor Creeper. 7 mana 5/5, so bad stats. It's a beast, which is nice. Cost 1 less whenever a minion dies while this is in your hand. So similar to Nerubian Prophet, where it keeps getting discounted, but in that way you probably don't want it in your opening hand because it's so expensive. But it's still a very good card, and after a while you can get it for really cheap and get a high tempo swing play. It's a good card. 8 mana 4/7, so stats aren't that great. At the end of your turn, cast a spell from your deck, targets chosen randomly. So the effect is not great, but can have some huge swings and have some huge upside. But for the most part, this card is pretty underwhelming and meant for constructed, where you can control the cards, the spells in your deck. So it's not a great card. Unless it really fits your deck nicely, try to avoid picking it. Dragon Hatcher. 9 mana 2/4, so really bad stats. At the end of your turn, recruit a dragon. Really good effect. It's really meant for constructed, where you can control what's your deck. In Arena, it's only good if you pull like a Bone Drake or better, and then it's even only just somewhat mediocre. Really don't want to pick that card unless you have to. It's a really bad card in Arena. So stay away from it, especially if you happen to draw your dragons first before you get that. Then it does absolutely nothing. It's a 9 mana 2/4, so it's really bad. So stay away from it. Bad card. Zola the Gorgon. 3 mana 2/2. Choose a friendly minion, add a golden copy of it to your hand. It's a decent battle cry. It's good for the later game. It's a bad tempo play. So it's a mediocre card. If you can save it till the end, try to. Otherwise, just play it on curve, and it's bad. The Darkness. 4 mana 20/20. No, I'm just kidding. It's pretty bad. Starts dormant. Can't awaken until 3 candles are drawn. Yeah, it's really bad. Since it's dormant, it means you can't taunt it. It means you can't silence it. It just sits there on your board, taking up a spot, and doesn't do anything until the 3 candles are drawn. So really bad. Try to avoid taking it. King Togwaggle. 8 mana 5/5. You swap decks, so you can kind of wait till the swapping is good, but it's still just slow tempo play. Not really good card. Marin the Fox. 8 mana 6/6. Summon a 0/8 treasure for your chest for your opponents. The chest gives you really good loot. Yeah, not much more to say. You guys have been playing with this card already. It's a really good card. The stats are kind of weak, but the effect of the chest is amazing. So you guys know how good it is at this point. Master Oakheart. 9 mana 5/5. Recruit a 1, 2, and 3 attack minion. It's a good battle cry, and it'll thin your deck of some of the weaker cards while remaining with good stats. So decent card. Slightly above average. Just ever so slightly. This is just a recap of the cards you kind of want to look for in Arena and what cards you should be trying to draft. Some of the top cards that we're going to be seeing in this expansion. So just keep an eye out for these guys. On the other hand, you want to avoid these cards, so try to stay away from them as best you can. I know it's going to be a little difficult, but just don't pick these if you can help it. These cards will be the most meta-defining cards for this upcoming expansion because they are neutral, common, or rare cards that will be picked because either they're very good or they will fit the curve very well. So these are the cards you're going to be seeing a lot of and be picked quite frequently and play against or with. Here are my predictions of the class rankings once the expansion hits. Wow, you made it to the end of this video. Now I'm impressed. I'm TTEXXX. You can just call me Tex. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe or check out some of my other videos. If you didn't, I have no idea why you're still here. You should probably watch something else. There's plenty of other stuff on the internet. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned a little bit. Hope you're excited for the new meta. I'm really excited for this expansion. And if you have any questions for me, please leave a comment down below and I'll try to answer them. Good luck in your arena runs, guys. Take care.